The Steelers have won 2 straight and sit in control of the AFC North, but we've heard that before last year. Are they better suited this year with Aaron Rodgers at the helm to make a late season push? I talk about that with Alan Saunders and go over our Stars and Skulls grades for their win over the Dolphins. Let's get into it here on the Locked On Steelers podcast.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things in the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first listen every day because we're your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. As I said before, we're joined by man himself, Alan Saunders. He's back on this show from SteelersNow.com. Alan, the Steelers right now sit at 8-6. I believe they were at this point in time 10-4 at this point in time last year, and they were just starting their 4-game skid into going into 10-7. But they're 8-6. The Ravens are hot on their heels at 7-7. And it's looking more and more like they're going to need to win the division to make the playoffs. But is this team suited the way it's built with Aaron Rodgers at the helm, with the defensive changes that they've made, with the growth that they've had, and with the struggle that they've had? Is this team better built to make a late season push this year than last year? And also considering who the opponents were and are.
I think yes to both of those questions. I think for the first part, last year the Steelers were 10-4, and I don't want to say they didn't go through any adversity, but it had been pretty smooth sailing for them to this point in the season. And then things started to collapse, and we've seen this from Mike Tomlin teams before. You remember, 2023, back-to-back losses to New England and Arizona. Kenny Pickett gets hurt. It looks like the sky is falling, and then they sort of found that answer, right? They found that rebound, and last year they never found it. They never found that's if it was baseball, that stopper, right? That starting pitcher who's like, I'm gonna stop this losing streak.
Exactly.
Right? They never found that. I think this year they found it, right? They stopped that 2-game skid where they led both games at half and let them both fall apart. They stopped it in its tracks. They won 2 games in a row. And I think that alone puts them in better shape than they were last year. Now, and the second part of that equation is last year there were some dominant teams in the AFC.
Yeah.
Last year they were an average team walking in the playoffs like a 13-year-old walking into a YMCA pickup basketball game with a bunch of grown-ass dudes. Like, I'm supposed to guard that guy with the mustache and the beard up there, huh? Like this year, is all teenagers. Everybody has warts. Everybody has faults. Every team is beatable. And so if they can go into the playoffs and continue playing some of their best football down the stretch of this season, I don't see why they can't have some success when they get there.
I look at it too. I think that this team, the way they found ways to win of late, doing different things. And I didn't get a chance to clip up Tomlin when I was asking about this, but he talked about how they are switching things up and it's what you need to do, matchup via matchup. And I think that was something they struggled with last year when they needed to come out of a style that had worked for them. It didn't yield good results a lot. And we've talked this year about how they needed to switch styles, how, man, the cover 3, cover 1 looks aren't working. They need to, and they switch to cover 2, but then they switch back to those single high looks when they need to. And like against the Ravens, but I look at how they're playing on offense. They've been a 12 personnel, 13 personnel team a lot this year. They go a little bit more 11 personnel these last 2 games. And Mike Tomlin saying, hey, it's just the matchup. But I think that's something that lends itself to show that this team is better. They can deal with, like you said, not just adversity, because Aaron Rodgers broke his hand. Mason Rudolph had to play. Derek Harmon's been in and out. TJ Watt has a collapsed lung. Like we know there's been some teams where if that had happened, good luck. That's the whole season right there if TJ Watt's hurt. But this team is fighting through injuries, and I think they're finding confidence with younger guys. Like, we talk about Kenneth Gainwell like they brought in a 30-year-old guy, but that guy's 26. Like, he's very much in the prime of his athletic career, and looking pretty good while doing so. This offensive line that I think we saw step up, and we'll talk more about them in our Stars and Skulls grades in a minute here. But the offensive line, I think, is taking a step up. Young guys on the defense taking a step up. I think that there are multiple assets the Steelers have in their favor for young guys who have higher ceilings to reach, climbing towards them right now. And when you have a congruence of guys doing that, you start to play better football. And then when you also have veterans that can lock in and unlock other things like Aaron Rodgers, like DK Metcalf, I think it makes you a more formidable team. And especially when you get another chance at some of these teams that beat you, like the Chargers, like the Bills, maybe you come back and you say, all right, we got something else for you, because they've been developing some other things on both ends of the ball.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because, I think there's been a deserved amount of criticism about things about the Steelers team. Like, the way they had it in their head this offseason, in a lot of ways, failed, right?
Yeah.
Like, they did not become the team they set out to become. And I think it's reasonable and correct to be critical of the team when that happens. But also, that doesn't mean the season's over either. Like, they've found another way a lot of times. Gosh, did you ever think we'd be talking about a Steelers team where James Pierre was considered to be a significant absence?
Yep.
Where Dylan Cook was the starting left tackle. And we're going to talk about him more later. But, they've figured out a way. And I really think it was probably, I doubt that anybody really talked a lot about this, but I really liked Mike Tomlin's quote from today about one of the challenges of leadership in this level. And it's like, knowing when you're as a coach, you're pushing the right buttons, you're pulling the right levers, and you're just not getting, for whatever reason, you're just not quite getting the success, but you're on the right track. But all you need to do is keep working at it and keep digging, and you'll get there. And when you need to abandon that approach and try something else. And I think they've done a really good job of that this year as a coaching staff, where in some areas they've really stuck to their guns and hung on and said, no, this is going to work. And in some areas I've been like, apparently Jalen Ramsey's a safety. I don't know what we were thinking, but here you go. And I think they've done a nice job of that.
But to me, that's good coaching. When you know when it's time to persevere. And I think that's one of the tricky lines. My dad always says this. Shout out to Pops. He says one of the trickiest lines is between just figuring out where you're persevering and where you're being stubborn. Because there's times when you're stubborn, but it's tough to know, because sometimes people will say you're stubborn about this and you need to get off this. Like, Mike Tomlin's thing about how they need to protect the football. They do this, that, and the third. This style of deep. Now it's working. And sure, there's some other changes that they've made in there, but they've been working at it. They've been sticking to it. And here they are fighting back. And it doesn't mean that the season's going to work out completely in their favor and they're going to win the Super Bowl or anything like that. But you're seeing the perseverance pay off. And I think that that's where, Mike Tomlin talked about continuity. That's where the continuity comes into play as a coaching staff, when guys can plug and play, be added in, veterans can be added in, and they find ways to boost the team. And then guys who have been around are like, hey, this is what we've been working on. Now it's starting to click. And I think that's where good coaching, and oftentimes this is where Mike Tomlin's at, is that why he gets winning seasons and hasn't had a losing season ever, is because he has been so good at getting guys to buy in and to providing that continuity that gives them that opportunity. Now, again, in recent years, they haven't had the roster. Like you said, they have had the roster as the 13-year-old kid going to the YMCA. and playing a bunch of grown men. But this year, I don't know. I feel like maybe they're not 13, maybe they're like 14 or 15. But like you said, it's a lot of other teenagers in the AFC right now that are looking around and picking their pimples off their face before they step on the court. So I think that you look around, to your point, the Broncos don't scare me. I mean, they scare you in the sense that like they're a good team, but like they're not a dominant team. They're 12-2. They're doing great. But I'm not shivering in my boots to play them. They've already beaten the Patriots, the Jaguars, Chargers. I think that we both talked about that game, the Chargers game. I think the Steelers, they had a plan. It fell apart a bit, but if the Steelers get them in Pittsburgh, that's a different story.
Yeah, that's the other part of it, is that they're putting themselves in a position where somebody's got to come to them.
Mm-hmm.
Man, how different did that Dolphins team look playing in 17 degrees in Pittsburgh? Like, let me see them Chargers outside that dome in LA.
Right.
Like that.
And
Colts are a dome team. Like that, and the Steelers already beat them. Like I don't know. Certainly, I don't think you want to draw Buffalo. I think that's the one that's out there that still looks like man, that 17 can just kind of take the game whenever he wants to, and there's not much you can do about it. But everybody else can be had, and I think that's one of the big differences about the reason for optimism this season. And I think the last thing is, I just think Aaron Rodgers is different. I think having him, like, he's not going to be MVP Aaron Rodgers all the time, but if he has enough moments, I think he can steal you a win in a place where you probably maybe otherwise didn't earn it.
Tell you what, if he throws a pass like he did to DK Metcalf on that touchdown, just splitting two safeties the way he did, he does that in a big game. That's the kind of play that can take over a game. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's Stars and Skulls time. We'll go over our grades, including Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, where they end up this week. Check it out here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Alan Saunders, stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, I remind you, this show is brought to you by Rocket Money. Ever feel like your money just disappears each month? It happens fast. A few subscriptions here, an impulse buy there. Suddenly, the numbers in your bank account don't match the numbers in your head. Rocket Money helps you get clarity, track every dollar, and stay in control of your finances, because managing your money shouldn't feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can save more and stress less. Rocket Money finds subscriptions you forgot you were paying for and helps you clean them up quickly. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Seeing all of your spending on one dashboard makes it easier to understand where your money is going. The bill alerts and spending notifications help you catch small things before they turn into big expenses. Take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter here with Alan Saunders. Before we continue, I want to remind you that, and thank you for making Locked On Steelers your first listen every day. And thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcasting network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up to the next level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Steelers with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonsteelers.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. Alan, let's talk about some Stars and Skulls. As always, we get to our grades here. Let's go to our grade rubric to remind people, if you're new to the show, we do Stars and Skulls each week. 1 to 3 stars means good, great to elite play. 1 to 3 skulls means bad play to bad game to all-time terrible. And then, of course, there is the dreaded bus ticket grade that you do not want to be getting, because that means you're going to be out of here. And we actually have given out a bus ticket that's become true when we gave one to Darius Slay, and he was gone a few weeks after that. But let's get to our stars here. Let's get to our 1 stars. Always, when they win, the Steelers win, we start off with the stars, and quite a few 1 stars they hand out. Starting off here in no particular order: Jonnu Smith, Pat Frymuth, Isaac Seumalo, Ben Skoranek, Darnell Washington, Patrick Queen, Jalen Ramsey, Peyton Wilson, Eseze Otomowo, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and Connor Hayward. Alan, I felt like the tight ends all three of them get a star here. None of them were spectacular, but when they were called upon, they did their job. Johnny Smith did get called with a hold, but he had that impressive catch and run where he trucked a guy. He kind of walked in for a touchdown. I mean, that wasn't exactly, just his running skill, but he was looking pretty fast. He looked like he can scoot there. But Pat Freiermuth caught some really good passes over the middle. Darnell Washington was Darnell Washington. Thought about giving him another star for some of the run blocks that he actually threw, so I might do that in post. But what was your sense of the tight ends in this game as the Steelers kind of rotate to using more wide receivers right now?
Yeah, I thought I actually felt during the game like I wanted more of them. I felt like they were effective weapons. It's interesting that like Jonnu Smith gets these sort of very programmed touches, I guess is the way I would say it, where like the play is called where it has to go to him. And I think they've been really hit or miss this year, where like sometimes it's felt like those have been a waste, where like they're just like forcing the ball to him. But I thought they did a really nice job of fitting them into the game script. Did have one on that, I think it was the opening drive, but then sprinkled them in throughout. I thought Pat Freiermuth, I thought this was going to be a big game for him. Honestly, I thought they could have used more of them, but I liked what they were doing with the 11 personnel and trying to. I mean, Mike Tomlin said today, really, it was about isolating Minkah Fitzpatrick. Mm-hmm. And you look at some of the plays down the field where you got Freiermuth in the middle of the zone, you got Metcalf in the middle of the zone. And I do feel like they kind of baited Miami into moving their best defender where they weren't going to throw the ball. Adam Thielen played a lot. One target, and so if you can trade Adam Thielen for Minkah Fitzpatrick and say, you're going to cover this guy and then we're going to have him go over here, I think for the Steelers that was a big win.
I thought so too. I thought that it was a smart play on their part there. I thought Patrick Queen, Jalen Ramsey really didn't light anything up. Ramsey did have a sack in this game. I thought Patrick Queen was really good as the glue guy. He filled a lot of plays there, and I thought about giving Jalen Ramsey another star because of he just wasn't even targeted in this game, and then he had that sack. But I've been going back and forth on them, and then especially Peyton Wilson and Esezi Atumoa both each got a sack as well. There, what did you feel about some of the off-ball defenders here on the list as far as how they contributed to the defense?
Patrick Queen had an interesting game. Had the one huge tackle for loss, which was one of the bigger plays in the game, I think. Also got completely juked out of his socks on one play.
That's kind of why I gave him one star, because I kept thinking of that play, and I was just like, yeah. And plus, he didn't really make. His plays in coverage are the plays he's not targeted on because he takes away something. Like I think it was I think it was the Jalen Ramsey sack where you could see Tua like really wanting to throw the ball over the middle, and Patrick Queen was just like, nope, and then Tua eventually gets sacked, and it's like that doesn't count as a target for Patrick Queen, so it doesn't count for him. But
there was another one where Tua was scrambling to his left, and he ended up throwing it away. I think he didn't get sacked, but it was the same thing where it was like, man, there's just nowhere to throw the ball. I thought they covered really well at both levels. I thought Queen had just a lot of like collection style tackles where like it was a 4 or 5 yard gain, but he was the one to make the stop where like, sure, you can like be like, oh, look, what do you have, like 11 tackles or something like that? But like, I think a lot of them were necessarily like impactful. So I think 1 star is very fair here. Same with Peyton Wilson, who I thought outside the sack and maybe a couple coverage reps were pretty good, but like he didn't play a ton. I thought they leaned on Malik Harrison a lot. And then who's the other defensive player there?
Esezi Atumoa.
Yeah, man. Like he's had good moments. I thought this was clearly his best game.
Yeah,
there's been like some good moments in every game. I think the difference in this game was there was not any of those like woof reps, right? Where like he kind of he kept the pop and cut out the big negatives that we had been seeing.
Agreed. Moving along here to the 2 stars, quite a few to hand out here. Alex Highsmith, Cam Hayward, Joey Porter Jr., Malik Harrison, Troy Fautanu, Zach Frazier, Asante Samuel Jr. Back to another week where Joey Porter Jr. just isn't targeted much. Had a breakup on a 3rd down, and they pretty much avoided him. Asante Samuel, I thought that was a brilliant call to bait to it into it. When I looked back at that play, I saw Tua looks to his right first and sees the corner playing over top and the safety playing underneath. And then he looks to his left and sees the safety is over top, and he's like, oh great, so that's underneath is going to be wide open, and Asante Samuel's playing low enough underneath that he's able to make you think, oh yeah, that's open, and then as soon as the ball gets let go, he just drops back and he's like, that's mine. And so I thought he deserved there. He did get beat for a touchdown on a jump ball, so I thought about taking off a star there, but the interception was huge and the touchdown came really late.
Time.
Exactly. That's why I wasn't going to hurt him too much for it. Troy Fautanu, Zach Frazier both get 2 stars. Those are the two. They both get 2 stars. I thought they did well in pass protection. I thought they were the 2 better run blockers in this game. I thought they made a really good difference. When you look at the run direction chart on Pro Football Focus, they have 12 runs for 76 yards off the right edge for 6.3 yards per carry and a touchdown coming off of there. So I thought they did well there. And then other guys, Malik Harrison, like you said, I thought he was really good as a run stuffer. He's really fine. Early on the season, I didn't get why they got him and got rid of Landon Roberts. I still think E-Rob is the man, but Malik Harrison is at least playing up to it there. And Alex Highsmith, 6 pressures, no sacks, but he was felt all day.
Yeah, I thought Highsmith was great. I thought Cam was great. I didn't think the Dolphins ran to their side of the ball very well at all. I thought they were really stout. But most of the bigger runs came the other way against YA and Herbig. Porter, I'm still not sure if Jalen Waddle even made the trip to Pittsburgh. If he was out there, I missed it. Porter just completely erased him. One of the best games we've seen from him, honestly. And like that's one of those classic, like if you're a cornerback and just nobody hears from you, like then that means some really good stuff happened. And Troy Fautanu, did we have an offensive lineman in the 1-star list or no?
I think I just put Isaac Seumalo there.
Isaac, okay, so I thought Isaac was really good, and also I thought the communication on the offensive line was really good. Miami does run some like more exotic stuff, and I did not feel like there was a lot of especially in 3rd and long. I didn't think that they had a lot of problems with that. So I give Frazier some credit there. And I thought Fautanu was really good. Chop Robinson's a player I've always liked going back to Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of really excited to watch him in this game just because I've always liked watching him, and he knew nothing against Fautanu.
Yeah.
Nothing. It was a really, really good game.
Shut him down there. All right. With that being said, I have 4 3-star players here. Who are they?
Are most of these guys on offense?
Yes. All of them are.
Aaron Rodgers.
Correct.
DK Metcalf.
Correct.
Kenny G.
Correct.
Dylan friggin' Cook.
My man, he got all 4 correct. Dylan Cook, I had to put him first, man. Dylan Cook, a guy making his first NFL start, going up against the defense in a big game. They were sending blitzes his way. There were a couple blitzes where like they sent 2 dudes on his side and he passed off one and caught the other, standing his ground. They tried to put pressure on. This is one of those games where like where when the Steelers face like a 3rd string backup tackle and you're like, dang, how did the Steelers not get like 30 sacks on this team?
Yes.
That's how the Dolphins have to feel right now, because Dylan Cook got his first start and was not an issue in this game. 30 pass pro snaps according to Pro Football Focus, 0 pressures. They didn't really run his side. But I'm sorry, when you do that as a pass protector, 32 pass block reps, on Pro Football Focus. But when you do that, you're golden, man. And so I gave him 3 stars as and granted, it's a little bit of a curve because I would have liked to see some run production come from his side, but I can't be mad at him.
Yeah, and I think the Steelers kind of slid some protections to help him. He did get a bunch of chips, but I mean that's Bradley Chubb over there. That's not some. Right. That's not some jabroni. Like
that's a player.
He's a guy that can get you. And I thought Dylan Cook was really good. I'm not really surprised. I've always felt ever since the Steelers signed him that there was something there, that was going to be a guy, especially in pass pro, that was going to be a player. We'll see about the run blocking. I'm not as convinced in that area, but in terms of first starts, man, that's on the offensive line. That's about as good as it gets.
It is. It's about as good as it gets there. And then just going over the other guys, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I look at this, and this isn't like the highlight super numbers game. This isn't Ben Roethlisberger throwing, 6 touchdowns in back-to-back weeks or anything like that. But the way that he just makes this offense efficient and the way that he's clicking with DK Metcalf, that's another thing that makes me think this team can be dangerous, is that Now Aaron Rodgers is kind of feeling the rhythm of when and where to hit you, and he's hitting other guys, but then he's using that to set up his KO shots with DK Metcalf because he's now had back-to-back weeks where he's had one with him.
Two things I really liked about Aaron Rodgers in this game. One was the ability to conduct drives that looked different. The drive where they score right before the half, and also really the other drive after the Samuel interception that they end up not scoring on. Those were long, methodical drives. They got the clock on their side, the time of possession on their side. They kept their defense, which has been very banged up, off the field, and they were methodical. And then at the beginning of the second half, then they got some big plays, right? Then they got some bursts. They had big play to Gainwell. And they get down the field right lightning quick, 6 plays. And then they go no huddle. And then they come where it's like it's still a lot of plays. The next drive's tempo, but there's tempo and they're going fast. And like to coordinate all that requires someone that's thinking the game at a high level at the quarterback position. And it wasn't necessarily like, I mean, I thought the throw to DK was a dot, but like you're watching this game, and if you're breaking down the tape for the individual quarterback performance, it's not like he's doing things that are just physically, oh my gosh, gush worthy. Like, but he just got everything to where it needed to be over and over and over again. And it wasn't like they were spamming the same thing. He did it in a bunch of different ways over the course of a game against a defense that's been playing pretty well lately.
I agree, and I think that's all more good signs that this team can be dangerous down the stretch here. Kenneth Gainwell also just being the playmaker that he has been. We've talked a lot about him. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, got to get to our skulls. Not a lot to hand out when you have a beatdown like this, but there were some. We'll go over them and what the Steelers need to improve next year on the Locked On Steelers podcast. But first, remind you, this show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Steelers have opened as a 6.5 point road underdog to the Lions with the money line at plus 270 and the over-under set at 50.5 points. We'll keep you up to date to see if that moves throughout the week. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, here with Alan Saunders of SteelersNow.com. Alan, let's get to our skulls here. Not many to hand out. I'm just going to give out 5 single skull grades, and some of these I might take back, but I gave one to Chris Boswell because he missed the kicking zone, and he only had 4 extra points, never had to kick a field goal in this game, so I thought that's fine. I'll give him a skull. I don't really get a chance to give him a skull. Kyle Duggar just got beat for a touchdown, and also I think he really didn't have that redemption play, that big play that Asante Samuel had, so I gave him a skull. Of the offensive linemen, I thought Mason McCormick had the roughest day. I thought there were a couple times he got thrown out of position, and that really hurt the Steelers. I think he gave up a sack at one point. And Jaylen Warren also lands here, not less because of his running. I mean, he didn't get to average a whole lot. He averaged 12 for 33. And listen, he had some sort of illness that happened before the game. He was questionable, the day of, but then he was able to get in. So maybe that illness impacted him. But the real reason he's here is because there was one of Aaron Rodgers' sacks was one where they lined up him to go up against a guy, and he got destroyed in the hole and gave up a sack. And that's just not typical Jaylen Warren, but I'm not going to knock him too hard. It's a single skull. It's just a real bad, just one bad play there. And Brandon Eccles, he was one of the guys that I thought gave up a little too much in this game. But again, it came in such a late part of the game that I'm not going to ding him too hard for it. But yeah, 5-1 scullers here. Alan, what say you about these guys?
Yeah, I agree. Duggar didn't necessarily have like any super impactful plays. I agree about McCormick. He was the one offensive lineman I thought was kind of tough. Jaylen Warren was tricky. I felt like he had the big run that was called back because of the hold. Was that him or was that Kenny? That was him, right? I think so.
Yes, he had a big run. He was the first big run. They got called back. Yep.
Yeah. So like if that play stands, probably giving him at least a neutral. You know what I mean? Like, and then he probably has a touchdown if 1 yard at the. I didn't think they handled that super well, but yeah, I mean, it's tough to find stuff. I mean, I thought maybe you could have nitpicked your way into a YA Black Skull. I thought they were able to run to his side more effectively.
There were a couple of times he got shoved out. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, I think all that's kind of nitpicking. We do our dudes and duds after the game at SteelersNow.com, and DB didn't give out a dud. It was a dudless dudes and duds. So, I mean, this is a pretty clinical performance by the Steelers.
Yeah, and that's why there are no 2 skulls. There are no 3 skulls. It's just 5-1 scholars. I thought that was a big part of this game, is that oftentimes when you lose or a game's really close, there's either a bunch of guys who messed up one little thing here, one little thing there, or it's a couple guys who had some real big screw ups that set you back. And we've seen that in weeks where the Steelers would lose a game, and I hand out a couple 1 skulls, a few 2 skulls, but 3 skulls or something like that. And like people will be like, well, you should be putting this on more people. And I'm like, well, it's coming down to these 3 guys that really cost the game. And I think that's something that the Steelers have in these last 2 games. There's no one has really given them that kind of mistake that's killing them right now. So I think this is a good sign for the Steelers. We're talking about trying to play good December football, good playoff football. The big thing is you want more guys pitching in, contributing, less guys, pulling out of the pile and not being able to handle their business, at least for 2 straight games now against 2 other teams vying for a playoff spot. I thought they've delivered.
I think so too. And I think they put themselves in a really good position here for the postseason. I like where they stand right now.
Absolutely. He's Alan Saunders of SteelersNow.com. Alan, thanks so much for joining us here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. So people can find you, follow you, get more of your work.
Yeah, you can find me on social media at @ASaunders_PGH, by written work at SteelersNow.com, and my podcast, Steelers Morning Rush and Steelers Afternoon Drive, on the Steelers Now YouTube page or anywhere you find podcasts.
Absolutely. He's Alan Saunders. Thanks, Alan, for joining us. Thank you all for joining us here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, wherever you get social media. My handle is always at Carter Critiques. You can read my work at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette by going to post-gazette.com. You can find me here on the Locked On Steelers podcast every day, Monday through Friday, on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes. We thank you for making us your first listen every day. We'll be back here tomorrow for Crossover Thursday with Matt Derry of Locked On Lions here on the Locked On Steelers podcast.